All right. Well, welcome everyone and happy Friday. Good to be connected again to our monthly Coachmetrix Best Practices Masterclass. And I'm excited about this topic. We've covered this in past masterclasses, and we usually get some really good responses because it's really key. And the topic for today is about onboarding your clients. And we think that the way in which you onboard your clients makes a really big difference in terms of their engagement. And so we're going to share some strategies today. We'd love to hear from you on some of the things that you're doing. That's always helpful, and ultimately make this as much of a discussion as possible. And we also want to answer your questions too, about how to best onboard clients. So we'll talk about strategies, again, hear from you as well. Before we jump in, for folks that haven't heard this before, we created Coachmetrix because we had a need in our coaching practice for the technology. And it started a while ago when we were noticing in our leadership development programs that when we got through a 360 process or some kind of assessment process, and people went to build their action plans when it was paper-based, they either didn't really build the action plan to the level that would help drive behavioral change, or they just didn't do it at all. And so we needed a mechanism to add more accountability and, frankly, transparency between the participant, the coach, and the participant's manager. And so that was a really a big driver for us on why we built Coachmetrix. Let me just go to a slideshow framework here. And then the second piece that really drove us was around, we started to notice that people were showing up without pens. Like literally, they were just not coming to workshops with a pen. And that drove us to just be thinking about the trends in which digital technology was happening and the need to have a platform to get communication, resources, all of those things that happen around the coaching sessions, around the coaching engagement online. And then finally, really the most important piece is we wanted a way to measure behavioral change so that we could prove that our coachees were changing as a result of our leadership development and our executive coaching program. So that's what led to Coachmetrix. It's built by coaches, made for coaches, and we always welcome your input and your feedback. We want to make it continually easier and easier to use, and we want to hear about what's important for you. We can't promise that we'll change everything that you want, but we'll promise that we listen, and your input is key. So please help us continue to evolve the platform as we move forward in 2022 and make it the platform that will help coaches add more value and make a bigger impact on our world. So today, let's get into some onboarding strategies. And I think the place that I'd love to start is with your questions. What would be most helpful for you around onboarding? And so I thought I'd start with this question. What are the biggest challenges you face in onboarding your clients today? So in your chat box, take a moment to respond to that question. What are the biggest challenges you face when you're bringing on a new client and you're trying to leverage Coachmetrix? What are those challenges that you're facing? Take a moment to reflect on that and add a response into your chat box. What are the biggest challenges you face when onboarding your clients? Yeah, really good so far. So Mark, I might just sort of respond to these as they come up, and then we'll get to some specific strategies and content for sure. So Mark, you mentioned ensuring that they are on the lookout for an email from Coachmetrix, and it often goes to their junk folder. Is there anything else that is important for us to know about that?
It is just sort of an ongoing issue, and it really is quite random who this happens to. But early on, I will give them information about how to get sort of set up in Coachmetrix. And oftentimes the email gets sort of lost along the way. They'll say, "Oh, I don't know where it is. Oh, here it is." and it sort of just gets sent to their spam folder.
Mhm.
So it just creates one additional step on my end to go, well, let me check into it, let me resend it. I'm on the lookout. It's coming at 2:05 p.m. ready. Here goes. Boop. And then they'll be able to find it. Oh, it went right to my trash. So.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Robin, do you want to talk about the safe listing that we've got on our knowledge base, just in case you haven't seen that? But have you seen that, Mark?
I have.
There are some instructions. Okay.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? Are there any other, so for folks on the call, there are in the knowledge base, there are some safe listing instructions. So sometimes what we'll do is, like, at the very beginning of an engagement, even before we send out that Coachmetrix link, we'll give our clients those instructions to make sure that that they're at least getting the emails from Coachmetrix.
Sorry, if you are dealing with any corporation, and anybody that has an IT group that is supporting the business, share that list with them, and also encourage your participants to add the coachmetrix.com, no reply at coachmetrix.com in their contacts. That is to ensure that you don't have to go through the whole trash cycle and then do that reactively, but I would do that proactively. I will add those safe listing instructions, again, a link to that in the chat, so everyone else has that. But I would just do it proactively to just make sure that they know who it's coming from. It all gets, all of our emails get funneled through a third party, so they're not coming directly from us. They are all handled, industry standard. So there shouldn't be any issues. And quite honestly, IT departments have to deal with this on a regular basis. When they know that it is coming from a safe source, they're willing to let those go through. Otherwise, as we all have heard in the news, there's significant risk to them allowing their employees to just access any emails. And that's why they put the firewalls there.
Yeah. Thanks, Robin. Hey, Robin, I think we were chatting before the session earlier this week, and you mentioned there's an onboarding checklist, and that's out on the community page. Is that accurate?
There will be an updated checklist that we will add to that, and there is a link for the safe listing there.
Okay.
So you can reference that. It is more geared towards new coaches in building out their accounts. But so if you can go straight to the safe listing instructions within the knowledge base. And if you've got any additional questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Sounds good. So we got a knowledge base in this upper black area of Coachmetrix on every page, as well as a community page. And the community page, it lists a number of things, including these best practice masterclasses, but there's that project checklist. Is that in the knowledge base or on the community page, Robin?
That's on the community page.
Okay. Great. So check out the community page, because that may help you with some quick onboarding tips to get started with your clients. Laura, you mentioned providing good guidance on how to use Coachmetrix in an efficient and an effective way. Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Maybe you could share a little bit more, or tell us more about what you're noticing or experiencing.
So I don't use Coachmetrix a lot. I mean, the bulk of my business is facilitation with occasional coaching, as opposed to coaching with occasional facilitation. And
Right.
so really part of it is the fact that I don't use it that often.
Yeah.
And then as I'm using it, and I'm thinking I have a couple of coaching engagements coming up. We're still in the kind of the dating process, but what is the best way, just to kind of give that orientation, help them see the tools that are available, help them see how we'll use it, and just kind of get them rolling. So if you had any insights or tips or checklists around that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. So a few thoughts from me, and Robin and or others would love to hear what you're doing as well. So a couple of things. There's not a lot for your clients to do inside of Coachmetrix. It really boils down to three things. Number one, create their action plan. Number two, view any pulse feedback that comes in, because as that pulse feedback data is coming in, it can be really valuable for them, and they'll get notified every time new data comes in. So just to view the data. And then the third piece is to engage with you as their coach, whether it's through a discussion or responding to a resource or an assignment that you might be sending out. So there's not a lot for them to actually do. And so we don't do a lot of training with our clients. We do two things. Number one, we assumptively say we use Coachmetrix in our coaching, and people generally use it. And then number two, what we'll typically do is send out a link for them to sign in to Coachmetrix, create their username and password prior to that initial, if you have an intake session or like a coaching kickoff discussion. And then in that initial discussion, we'll give them just a very high level orientation. Here's where you can see the discussions. Here's where you'll see some resources that we'll send out. And here's where the action planning area will come into play. So it's usually not much more than that. The other piece that we do is in that initial intake session is we will show them this PDF. This PDF is available for you on the community page, and it's just sort of like a high-level visual infographic of how the Coachmetrix process works. So you might have some kind of assessment at the beginning of your coaching. Maybe there's time for reflection, and this isn't just Coachmetrix. Like, this is just more of our coaching process. You'll put together an action plan. Maybe that action plan gets calibrated with a manager, and in Coachmetrix, you can send an action plan to anybody you choose. So if you want the manager of the coachee to see what that coachee is working on, there's a feature that allows you to do that. And then there's an ongoing pulse feedback process. So sometimes it's helpful to just visually see the high level picture of what's happening. Feel free to download this infographic from the community page. We don't care if you even take it and modify it or create your own that embodies your own process. So one, give them a link before a kickoff meeting, give them a high level orientation, and then use some kind of visual graphic like this, how Coachmetrix graphic works to help you just paint the big picture. Robin, is there anything I missed or anything that you've seen from other coaches?
I would just say, to reinforce Sal's point, that, when you present it to your client, this is the platform you're going to use, and tell them the value of it, right? This is how we communicate. Pulse feedback tends to be a little bit further down the road. That's what everybody gets really excited about, though. I just, send out all these surveys, and I'm really curious and anxious to see how everybody assessed me. So they will see the value once you get to that point. But if you reinforce that that's how you communicate, that is their portal for all of the resources that you are sending to them. It's where they can get the guidance when they can't reach out to you directly. If you build out their account so it really has value to them, then they will have no problem adopting it. So part of it is presenting that and telling them the value before they even hop on. And part of that is on you to make sure that that portal is fully stocked and does have all that they need. So A, they're not dependent upon you, and B, they see all that is there for them as part of your coaching engagement.
Yeah, I think that's really good. And there's an assumptive piece to this. If you go to your clients and say, we'd like to use this platform, would you like to use it? People have enough logins already. Like, I think people don't want to have another platform just to have another platform, but this becomes a centralized hub for them. And then that data that comes in, like if we're really using that pulse feedback data, that's going to help them make some real-time behavioral change. So that's the value point for them. Instead of having to look for Word documents and access to Box and Google and 3 different ways to get information from you, it becomes their one-stop leadership hub. And then it also becomes really valuable in terms of the information. So if you assumptively say, this is how we coach and this is our platform, everyone uses it. If you go in wishy-washy, no one will use it, or half the people will use it, like maybe any other platform. There's something in here from Samantha. I didn't quite catch what this is. You can see the live meeting notes here. Samantha, is there anything about that you wanted to share? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Thanks for the safe instructions. So let me share a few strategies. Feel free to jump in at any point in time around any of these strategies that I'm going to share, and let's have some discussion around them. So strategy number one is, I think it's to some of the things that Robin has been talking about. It's really how you position Coachmetrix even before the coaching starts. In the sales process, it can help you. We find that a lot of coaches win work. They over their competition because in the sales process, they're saying things like, we have a platform that measures behavioral change. So you will know whether leaders are changing or not as a result of the work that we do. That's highly valuable for your executive sponsors. Or we've got a platform that works great in the virtual world or the hybrid world. Or we have a platform that is really going to make the experience and the efficiency of where you get your notes and your resources and your action plan more efficient because it's all in one central location. So think about some key messages that you can reiterate or iterate throughout the selling process and then into like the onboarding or the intake process that you have with your clients. Does that make sense? Any questions or thoughts? And also, are there any key messages that you like to iterate or reiterate throughout the pre-sales or sales process that have worked for you?
I think one of the things
Oh,
is,
go ahead, Lori, then we'll go to Mark.
I'm sorry,
That's okay, you're good.
you use like a hand raising process, Sal? I don't.
Totally fine. Just come off mute. That'll notify me. That's
Okay.
fine.
Well, I think a big thing is engagement of people beyond the person being coached. So really inviting others into that development process. You know, Coachmetrix is the primary way that we do that. So, you know, some people get jazzed about the measurement piece, but some people get jazzed about the fact that other people will be able to chime in, you know, the supporters, if you will.
That's a really great point. And like, if you think about any of Marshall Goldsmith's work, we're big fans of Marshall. And the idea that, you know, he went through phases in his career where he thought coaching was all about him. Then he thought it was all about the coachee, and then realized, well, it's actually about the people that surround the coachee. And so you're right, like people are going through a leadership development journey, whether it's in coaching or a program that involves other people who are impacted by the leader's behavior. That's really powerful. It's a lot more powerful than just going through a coaching process in isolation. So that's a great message. Mark, how about you? What's some of the messaging that you've used?
So one of the things that seems to be really attractive to clients is that it takes the communication out of the email stream. In and of itself, that seems to be a selling feature. So it's, you know, how are we going to communicate? And then I sort of explain, you know, this is, think about it as like a single folder that it's all going to be sort of contained, and we can take it out of the email stream so that we're not searching like, when did he send that? If you think, when did he send that? All you need to do is go to the conversation and find it.
That's a really great point. And I'll show you one thing. I've shared this tip in almost all of my master classes. If you label your discussions really well, then it helps with your point, Mark, around just being able to find things. So your coachee knows, and they'll still get an email, but your coachee also will be able to just go to Coachmetrix either to prep for a coaching session or to find what they need. So we send all our pre and post coaching messages using the discussion feature. And so if you do a nice job of like labeling coaching session 2 reminder and prep, coaching session 2 notes, coaching session 3 reminder and prep, coaching session 3 notes, it creates this really nice history that we think is valuable for your clients. It just makes everything more efficient for everybody else in the process. So really, really good point. People still get the email notification and they can click through and go right to the thread in Coachmetrix, But instead of searching an email, you can go right to Coachmetrix for all of your communication around the coaching experience. Awesome. Tip number 2, we highly recommend that you preload content before you send your participant notification to get into Coachmetrix. And so what you have the ability to do, and maybe I'll just demonstrate this really quickly, is you have the ability to add a participant, not send them any notification about being in Coachmetrix, and then loading information for them, and then sending them an invitation. Does that make sense at a high level? Okay, cool. So that's exactly how we go through the process. So if we're on this project, this Acme Core project, and I want to add a new participant, and I click this plus button and I add, let's say we're just going to add Sal Sylvester, there's this welcome message that's right here. If I don't click this welcome message, this new participant will never know they've been added to Coachmetrix. So then what that allows me to do is I might have a resource that I want to send them. One of the big resources that we are huge proponents on is creating a welcome kit. That'll be another strategy here. But I can then take that welcome kit and share it with Sal Sylvester or whoever I'm coaching. And then after I've shared content with that person, I can go back into that person's tile and I can resend them the invite because they would not have signed in. There's this little mail icon here on the tile, and you can resend them or you can send them an invite. So let me pause there for a second because I think this is a great way to give people information inside of Coachmetrix before they like loading their account. So when they sign into Coachmetrix, there's information in there for them to start doing stuff with. Let me pause there for questions, reactions, or thoughts around that. And maybe I'll jump in here. Megan, are you all doing anything like that in your work, or have you played around with that?
Yeah, I'm kind of at the very beginning stages, just absorbing everything. So I'm really here to learn from you guys. So I appreciate what you're saying and sharing, because I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I think Lori had mentioned, not utilizing Coachmetrix all the time, and I'm not the coach. I am assisting the coach in being able to utilize this space. So that might be a suggestion if you have somebody that could kind of overtake that space. That's what I'm learning to do. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great, Megan. And we have many of our subscribers have someone who basically sort of runs the back end of Coachmetrix for them, whether it's an assistant, a virtual assistant, project manager, a coordinator of some sort. So this is actually a really great strategy for you. So I'm going to jump to one of our strategies. We have created, and this is preloaded in your Coachmetrix account, mostly as an example, but we've created a welcome kit. And this is a welcome kit that that we use in our practice, but you can create your own. And inside of the welcome kit, there's a message to the coachee. Like for us, most of our coaching sessions or most of our coaching engagements, they start the same exact way. So anything that's repeatable becomes a really good opportunity for a resource. So we've got a welcome letter. And then inside of that, we've created a video with some tips on how to get the most out of Coachmetrix. We've created we've uploaded an image of the infographic that I just showed you so that people can see the sort of the process of coaching. Our coaching agreements are online. It's something we do very standard in all of our coaching engagements. Oftentimes we're kicking off a 360 process or some kind of assessment process. So there's information about that along with some attachments so they can identify their 360 raters. And there's a sample email, heads up email that they can send out to their raters. And then there's this other tool, a leadership dashboard tool that we use in our engagements. The point is you can preload all of this so that when they sign in, there's something for them to do immediately. And if it's a repeatable part of your coaching process, It's one less thing you have to do. For me, all we have to do is go in here, edit the coachee's name, and now we're coaching somebody else, and the collection is saved, and then we just share it with Susan Graham or whoever we're coaching. And the whole process of kicking off the coaching engagement is started by just changing someone's name, as opposed to like digging around your files on your laptop to find that welcome letter or find those coaching agreements or find the 360 rater sheet. It's already built in Coachmetrix once, and then you're modifying it and sending it out. So let me pause there, because that's another strategy that we share with our new subscribers. That makes sense? Any questions? Mark, go ahead.
So Sal, is there any problem with hyperlinking out from that? So I was thinking about it from the coaching agreement side. So I use a specific document that clients can actually sort of electronically endorse. Is there any reason that I would have problem hyperlinking out to that in that document?
Not at all. Let's just do it really quickly. Let's say you're going to build a resource. And by the way, you can hyperlink to pretty much anything. Maybe you've got a link for your coaching schedule at platform, your schedule, like Schedule Once or Acuity. You're just going to create a resource. And Mark, as an example, what's the name of whatever it is? Is it a welcome?
It's actually like a coaching agreement. Yeah.
Okay. So let's say it's a coaching agreement, and you might put a description in here, access the link below to find coaching agreements. And, you can make that look a little bit nicer, but you just put your link in there. And then once that's built, that link will go out to whatever website you want it to go out to. It's a little bit slow here for some reason. But so the answer is yes, Mark, and it's literally as simple as what I just did. Put a little context around it, and then all of a sudden you have a resource now that you can use on all of your coaching engagements. Okay. So you could imagine like linking to a video or linking to maybe your Acuity schedule link so that a coachee can schedule their coaching sessions, or linking to an article, or linking to fill in the blank. If you link to a video like on YouTube or Vimeo, the video will actually play inside the body of the resource, which is kind of nice. But yes, the answer is you can link anywhere you want.
And in building out the account, you do have the flexibility to utilize any of the features that are there. So sometimes it might be more appropriate to put in assignments. So
that's a great point.
This short and concise list of to-dos that you want them to click through before you meet. So you can use the assignments. You can use a welcome message in discussions and just customize that for your audience. So based upon who you're working with, you could use resources or a collection, you can use a discussion conversation, or you can use assignments, or all of the above. The point being, you want to build out the account before they activate it, before they log in, because you want them to have things to do once they log in. So again, reinforcing that value that this is their portal for all of their coaching needs, rather than logging in and saying, there's nothing here for me. It's an empty shell. And that comes to the timing of when you send that welcome message, which kicks off the activation process for them.
Yeah, that's a great point, Robin. Thank you. And as an example, maybe you have 3 assignments that you've built. They're in your assignments tab, and you can access them for any project that you use. It's kind of a library of assignments. So then they've got an assignment for identifying their 360 raters, or watching the welcome video, or beginning their vision reflection, whatever it is that you want them to do. And then as they complete that, it marks off the date, and there's some reporting that's attached to the assignment, so you can always export whether people have completed things or not. So you're right. It's not just the resources, but it's also the discussion feature, the assignments that can be really helpful in that onboarding process. All right. We've talked about this one. I'll show my screen again really quickly. Positioning Coachmetrix with your client. I already mentioned like assumptively positioning it. This is how we coach, or this is our coaching hub, or our leadership accountability platform. Again, send that link before your intake session so you can give people just an orientation during that intake session. Usually I spend 2 minutes with a client at most, because again, they're using the system to create their action plan, to access resources and discussions, and then to look at the pulse feedback data. So once they get oriented, there's not really a lot to do for them except to, you know, interact and get the information they need. We talked about the welcome kit, and really anything that's repeatable in your process with some well-organized resources, you can just create some really good efficiency, like a library of resources that you can use throughout your engagement, and that helps to bring people into the coaching engagement. We talked about the onboarding assignments. That's really helpful to give people a really clear path on what they should be doing. So we're about to start a kitchen remodel here at our home in Louisville, and we've been working with an architect. We have these great designs to redo our kitchen and our family room, and we brought on board this contractor. And after spending way too long going back and forth with this contractor, we finally fired the contractor. And it's been this awesome experience for me being a customer of somebody, because what I've realized throughout the process is his complete lack of communication and understanding next steps in our work together is what drove us to say, not working with this guy. And he's an incredible craftsman and finished carpenter. And we're all incredible coaches too. But when clients don't know what their next steps are or have clarity of communication, it can completely derail their experience of the coaching process. And so that's what we're trying to do here, is part of Coachmetrix, is allowing them to always know what is next in the process. So you could take that assignments feature as well, and you can set up, like, maybe there's 12 coaching sessions, so you create 12 coaching assignments, or giving them clarity with pre and post messages with a discussion feature, or clarity through resources. That's ultimately what we're trying to do here, so that your clients have a great experience, not just in their coaching conversations with you, but in everything that surrounds it. Another strategy that we have is to create an onboarding nurture sequence. And you can do this using the discussions feature inside of Coachmetrix. And there's really two things to do here. Number one, and probably just easier if I show Coachmetrix itself. So the discussions feature, as you know, is right here. And you have the ability to create a discussion, and you can build templates that then become loadable by selecting them from this drop-down box. So as an example, I know that before all of our coaching sessions, we send out a pre-coaching session reminder, and there's the same 4 questions that we want people to respond to. So if I build that template, it becomes available for me in this drop-down box. And when I couple that template with the scheduling feature, you could actually create like a nice onboarding nurture sequence for your clients. Maybe there's a welcome message that goes out on week 1. And then maybe week 4 of your coaching, you've got some kind of check-in. And then maybe week 8 of your coaching, you've got another check-in. So by using the template feature coupled with the scheduling feature, you could create a nice nurturing welcome sequence. The template feature is over here on the left-hand side of your screen. You can build your templates right from here, and then what you end up with is a library of templates. For example, coaching session reminder, or action plan check-in, or reminding people to follow up with their supporters and giving them some steps on how to do that. But you could also create templates for 30 days in, 60 days in, and get those scheduled in advance, and then you can sort of set it and forget it. So let me pause here for any questions about this idea in terms of onboarding new clients.
So can
Lori?
you talk a little bit more about, I need to brush up and get sharper on the assignments piece because I've used it and I love it, but so the templates help, this is a little bit of instruction, but teach us a little bit about the templates and its relationship to the assignments.
Yeah, so you can think about the assignments as task lists, like go do these 5 things. It's a to-do, it's intended to be a to-do list. And we've got some improvements to that feature that we're going to be making and rolling out here in the next several months. But at the simplest level, it's really just intended to be a task list, so your clients always know what to do. The discussion templates are intended to be templates for any communication that is repeatable in your coaching process. So for us, almost we send out a pre-coaching session message before a coaching engagement, as an example. And usually we're sending that message out to remind coachees of the coaching session and also to reflect on some questions so that when they show up, they're prepared and the coach is prepared. Those questions are typically the same questions that we send out every single time. So instead of writing that email every time, we build a template. Hi, coachee. Looking forward to our coaching session on date and time. Your field work from the last session was, you can fill in the blanks later. Thank you, and coach name. Here are the questions you want them to respond to. And so once you build that template, it sits in this templates. It's like a library, just like your resources are really a library. So when you're on your engagement, you're getting ready to remind Greg Smithy of his next coaching session. When I go to create that discussion, all I'm doing is selecting from the template that's already built, and it pre-populates the body of that discussion. So again, it's an efficiency piece. We often send pre-messages or post-messages, or we might check in between sessions about their goals or something else, or we might have to remind them on how to engage with their stakeholders or their supporters. Anything that you find is repeatable from an email standpoint is a great candidate to be a template in your coaching practice.
Thank you.
Is that helpful, Lori?
It is. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right. I think we have one or two final strategies here. Next one is around, MicroLearning content. I mean, really, we've touched on this really, but any content that you want to build that will extend the value of your coaching beyond the coaching conversation. Of course, that's the primary, I think, lever that we all have as coaches, but you have the ability to, in a very simple way, add some additional tools, videos, as we mentioned, uploading documents or linking to documents. In your case, Mark, you can combine resources into collections, like the welcome kit that I just showed you, basically adding any learning content to create more value, especially at the earliest stages of your coaching engagement. So people are immediately getting value. So one way in which we do this, we often will get a coachee that is all gung-ho to start coaching, but you may not have capacity for 30 or 60 days, right? We've all been in that situation, and it's funny how sometimes engagements come in waves. All of a sudden, you've got like 5 new engagements that start. Well, why not give people an opportunity to get started? What if you had some micro-learning content and you could get them to start reflecting on their vision for themselves as a leader? I'm wondering if I have an example here in our resources that I can show you quickly. And so give them some field work so that they can start working on something early in coaching, or maybe even before the coaching starts. So in this particular example, we built a whole series of personal foundations, if you will, content that includes your leadership vision, your values, your identity, and then your human needs. And so each of these resources, there's a video that we created. Each video is anywhere from 3 minutes to 8 minutes. The video is stored on YouTube. And then there's a little bit of content. And there's a downloadable toolkit. So when I want a leader to work on her personal vision or her leadership vision, I give her this before we ever get into a conversation about her vision. Toolkit, some content, and a video. And by the way, it's all repeatable. So you could use it on your blog, on your website. You can use it you can repurpose it in so many different ways. But again, another way in which you can onboard a new client, and you might not have time to start coaching this month, but maybe you can in April, get them working on some pre-work. Questions, reactions, thoughts to that? All right, in the last couple minutes, I open it up to you. What are you doing maybe that we haven't covered today in terms of onboarding your coaching clients, whether it has to do with Coachmetrix or not? What are some things that you're doing in your practice, or whether you're a coach or whether you're administering the back end of a coaching engagement? Mark?
Yeah, so Sal, I think I've mentioned this previously, but I do a lot of assessment on the front side. So
Nice.
whether it's personality-based assessment or emotional intelligence or something of that nature. So I upload all the information, but I do it as a discussion early on.
Perfect.
And so the client has access to it, and it's always, again, in their folder, so that it's always buttoned up. The other thing, which is really just observation and a suggestion for improvement.
Yes.
I have to navigate people to the little pencil for edits, right? So they can't find it. So in the next iteration, if it can be bigger, that would be great. So
great. That's coming.
Okay, great.
It's coming soon. Soon. I won't give you a date, but we are coming out with Coachmetrix 2.0, probably in the April timeframe, May timeframe, where the functionality generally will work the same with a lot of improvements around things like what you're talking about. So Mark's maybe referencing in one particular area to edit a goal, like, well, yeah, you've got to find this little pencil that's over here, and then you can edit it. So lots of user interface improvements coming out soon, but thanks for that suggestion. But I love that idea, getting your assessments online, whether it's personality, 360s, whatever you're doing, as a discussion, so people can, because we know how this works. Like, you get 3 months into an engagement and they're like, yeah, I took this, but where do I find it? Just go to Coachmetrix, because I put it in Coachmetrix for you. Great suggestion. Any other ways in which you're onboarding your clients?
So I do want to mention that we did create an onboard and guide for you all to share with your participants, and that's available on the community page. But it's a really short and simple 2-pager that kind of shows them a view of the screen and shows them exactly what each of these little icons mean, so on and so forth. And then some, tips for how do you log in initially, what all of these different areas mean, how to upload a picture, how to create a shortcut on your phone. So things that you don't necessarily have to memorize, but from their perspective, some tips in getting started a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's great, Robin. That little tip of just getting that Coachmetrix icon on your phone, you can see the arrow sort of right there in my phone, is super helpful, because even though we don't have an app for Coachmetrix, it is mobile optimized. So you can do quite a bit if you're, you got 5 minutes between meetings and you're sitting outside of a client's office, or even your client wants to take a look at their pulse feedback, just having that links right into your Coachmetrix account to the mobile optimized view, and you can access anything in there. Any other final questions or thoughts before we start to wrap up? All right, well, thanks everyone. It's great to see you. This recording will be out on our community page. If there's any support you need, let Robin or I know. You can also click on any of the support links inside of Coachmetrix. And we're thrilled to have you as part of the community. Hope you have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.